anything going out in there. 20 minutes. I'll sit in the cage. I sort of understood because I was flying. Got out. I didn't know her something.
She was the senior. She's not tonight. Her father's side.
That's an unequivocal. Yes, that's what Lynn said.
I grew up away.
A couple of years ago.
His name was
No, I'm shrinking. So, I'm glad I saw you. What others? Pat and I got to date for, so I couldn't fill it out. I couldn't.
He's all to
Lie and then sign it. And then you finally come along because you know everybody. So finally I got the St. Mark's. I think they're just put that way. Sit there, just sit down. I'm glad I sent you. I called her. I got my sister in that. Maybe her report.
freelance.
Oh no, mine. So anyway, Saturday.
Of
Surprise.
Voicemail.
Online.
I never saw
we have one east.
They'll probably have it online.
Well, you phase that out and you let me know.
But that's why I haven't.
Okay, because I'm turning 70. I am the same way. I will put something on my calendar and have time and then I know.
There's a hard thing. It's like, I mean, like get that into.
Anyway, I said to think about it and we're going to the early.
I think you want a big 40. That's good. That was the goal.
Pick you up together. The goal was going with on in, everybody in that.
I heard about that.
I didn't know. I don't know how big it, you know, what do I want? Finally,
I finished one early 45. Yeah, it looks really nice.
and so I called this morning and I said, you know, I did see. Put that in, and she said, she was I've always.
I've heard somewhere in the media.
Yesterday, shopping for coats. My sister went to Bosco. I don't do
It's
Really?
my Macy's only. Yeah. Well, that's because.
Oh no. Yeah, they have to have the answers.
And I'll send you corrected. So I am not about to do my taxes until the 1st of April. Well, no, I gather all the stuff together. No, I take them to my accountant. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. In there, that's where all this.
January 5th of 2027, I don't know.
Never came in.
That's kind of when
Yeah, and they have like a
Nice coat. Me. Great price.
I don't know, I must have clicked on it.
Not what she liked, she got a good price on it.
okay.
No.
I did that last week.
Your background. No, I go through it every month. So I go last year, and they're now this is
I have a
that.
feeling.
Welcome, everybody.
Pull it out, Dana.
Testing. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Welcome, everybody. We are so happy to have all of you here today. We're going to be I'm going to be just sitting down with all of you and learning about Talbot County and everything that these two have to offer us, but they're going to be introduced in just a minute. I just wanted to give a few updates about the library. In particular, take care of yourselves during the program. This program is being recorded tonight, so just so you're aware of that, so that we want to try to keep our voices down so that everybody can be heard up here because they have such good information to share with us. I wanted to share a little bit about a couple of programs that are coming up. And as you were coming in, you may have noticed some bookmarks on the seats. That's for our survey. We are doing a strategic planning where we really need your input. So if you are a user, or even if you are not a frequent user of the library, we really want to hear from everybody in the county. So please fill out our survey, and it does get you entered into a gift card drawing. So just an extra incentive. This weekend, we have some really good programs coming up. We have the Native American Heritage and Artifact Day, and I know Sarah, who's in the audience, has been with the Talbot 250 Commission, has been working really hard on this program. So I hope all of you will come out. It is from 10 to 4 at the Waterfowl Building, and there will be all kinds of culture, history, and living traditions of Native American culture. So please come out for that. And as many of you know, we have our Fire and Ice Festival. The library does join in on that. And we have, if you have children in your life, please come. I am actually going to be doing a story time. So that will be at 12:30 here at the library. And we do get a big draw for those story times during Fire and Ice. So please enjoy the festival throughout Easton. It's a great festival. And we will have a live sculpture. So you can actually see how they do ice sculptures in person. So that will be here as well. And I think a couple of other places in Easton are doing that. The only other thing that I wanted to say is that we have a wonderful opening coming up, and it's thanks to our support of the Talbot County Council, of all of you. The St. Michael's Library will be opening on March 21st. Even if you're not a St. Michael's Library user, we hope you'll come out. It's a Saturday from 10 to 2. Please come out. We'll have a lot of family activities. It's not just the boring old ribbon cutting. We have a lot of wonderful things planned for that day. It's a beautiful library, so please come out and help us to celebrate that. It's been years in the making. So I'm just going to turn it over to Doug, who is going to talk to you about our wonderful presenters.
Thank you very much, Dana. And good evening, everyone. I appreciate everybody coming out. Really pleased to see such a good turnout. And we're going to have 2 sessions, and the next session is going to be when? Monday, March 2nd, right? We changed the day to keep you on your toes, right? Just want to make sure everybody has that right. And it is wrong in the brochure. So be here Monday. If Tuesday, the library's normally closed at this time, so you'll be by yourself. I'm Doug Holly. I'm the curriculum chair for the Chesapeake Forum. And let's start off, I want to acknowledge the 2 organizations that are sponsoring this. First off, thank you to Dana Newman, the director of the library. The library and their team at the Talbot Free Library has warmly embraced the idea of doing this program and helped market the program. They also generously offered the facility so that we could have such a large crowd, and they are taping it so that others will access the program. How many of you here have library cards? Hey, that's pretty good. And then you know what a wonderful resource the library system here is in Talbot County. And my apologies to the library staff for making you work late tonight. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge Chesapeake Forum, and it's an academy for lifelong learning. People familiar with the Chesapeake Forum? Yeah, pretty good crowd. Lynn, our executive director, is in the back, and she helps to put over 100 programs a year. for the Eastern Shore, and hope you will continue to enjoy them. If you have ideas or speakers for other programs, please let either Lynn or myself know. We're always looking for new ideas and new speakers. So, why are we here? Well, Talbot County, right? It's a beautiful place, but it's a community with deep maritime roots, thriving farms, and vibrant small towns, all woven together through a unique and carefully balanced system of government. And tried to memorize this, but it didn't work too well. And the system of government takes effort, though. To paraphrase our founding fathers, a democratic form of government is hard. Of all forms of government, it requires the most active participation of its citizens. Think about that. And acknowledging that need for participation, Lynn Mielke and I were talking about a year ago about a program like this. She brought Pete in, and here we all are. So thank you very much. And it's great to see you all here because we're here to learn about how Talbot County operates, right? How the business of the county gets done and how we can contribute. It's a large and complex operation. It takes many talented employees and volunteers to work.
The library will be closing at 6 o'clock.
See, it's closing, right? We're keeping people here late. For the program this evening, we're covering the business of the county and how it operates so you can understand where you can participate. We're not going to discuss current projects or issues, right? We will have time at the end of the program this evening for questions, so I'd like if you defer questions. But if there's something you didn't understand or a term that needs to be explained or something like that, raise your hand, I'll call on you, we'll get that answered. But please hold general questions for late. One resource that's here that I'd like to point out is the Talbot County Annual Report. And it's available online if you didn't get a copy, but it's an excellent report. And I'd like to compliment Sarah. Get your name right. Sarah Kilman. She's the one to put this together. People that have looked at it have really complimented how well it gives us an idea of the vast number of things that are done here in Talbot County. Would also like to ask that you silence your phones. And as mentioned, we have 2 sessions. So if questions should arise after this session, if things occur to you that you want to ask, we've set up an email address, and it'll be posted at the end on the slide where you can email your questions, and then Lynn and Pete will answer them at the next session. Finally, I'd like to thank and introduce our speakers for this evening. Lynn Mielke is a member at large for the council. She is a longtime resident of the county. Lynn is a lawyer, started practicing in Easton with a local firm. And over time, she was a public defender, a divorce mediator, and had a private practice. Over the years, she has and then continues to volunteer her services in the community and the arts organizations, the Waterfowl Festival, Plein Air, Trayvon Players. She's a member of the Miles River Yacht Club and served on the Log Canoe Race Committee. She currently resides here in Easton with her fur baby, who she adopted from Talbot Humane. So Ms. Mielke serves as the council's liaison to the airport, the Commission on Aging, Gulf Board, the Midshore Regional Council, and as the council's alternate member to the Maryland Association of Counties, or MACO. Pete Lesher is serving his 2nd term on Talbot County Council and currently serves as its vice president. He has served on the staff of the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum and currently serves as chief historian and ambassador at large. If any of you have had the opportunity to attend one of Pete's programs, you'll know how knowledgeable and entertaining he is in his programs. I strongly encourage it. Mr. Lesher's other civic engagements include serving as the Maryland Heritage Areas Authority on the Council of American Maritime Museums and as an accredited peer reviewer for the American Alliance of Museums. He also serves as committee chair for Boy Scout Troop 190, and he himself is an Eagle Scout. Mr. Lesher also lives in Easton with his wife, Mariana, and 2 children who have attended Talbot Public Schools. Mr. Lesher serves as the council liaison to the Talbot Free Library Board of Directors, the Talbot Arts, the Frederick Douglass Park on the Tuckahoe, Local Drug and Alcohol Abuse Council, Public Works Advisory, and the Talbot County Department of Social Services Board of Directors, and the Upper Shore Aging Board of Directors. So as you've heard, we're very fortunate to have these two dedicated public servants who give and help our community so much. We appreciate your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug, and thank you all for attending today. I had no idea the level of interest here, so this is wonderful. The cat's out of the bag. I'm a historian, and so I'm going to start with a little bit of history about Talbot County. You've been looking at a picture that I pulled out of Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum's collection of the courthouse, probably around the first decade of the 20th century. No motor vehicles. In talking about, so our subject is Talbot County government, and Talbot County government, it seems, goes back to this year, 1661/2. Wait a minute, which is it? It's a little confusing. It's more than a little confusing. The first mention of appointments to Talbot County came out on February 18th in colonial records, a series of appointments of a clerk and 6 justices of the peace. Sometimes they get called justices of the peace, sometimes they get called commissioners. Essentially, those terms are being interchanged back then. This is February 18th, 1661. The court will first meet 3 months later on April 25th, 1662. Wait a minute, 3 months later, isn't that 15 months later? Ah, here's where the confusion comes in. The British Empire at this time was using the Julian calendar. When is New Year's Day?
First.
Today it's January 1st, right? But back then it was March 25th. So that was only 3 months later. And so when we're talking about dates in the first 3 months of the year in that colonial period, and this goes on, and we don't catch up to the rest of the world and adopt the rest of the world's calendar until 1752. So if you find colonial records from January, February, and part of March, sometimes they will have these dates with a slash in it, and that says, okay, at 1662, by the way, we would count it today. The county is named for the sister of the first Lord Baltimore, and she marries a Richard Talbot, Sir Robert Talbot, and hence that's how we get the Talbot name. It's named for the Lord Proprietor's sister, Grace Talbot. There are 2 Talbot counties in the United States. Where's the other one? Georgia. Georgia is the correct answer. And if you've ever run afoul on a Google search, you'll looking for Talbot. That's how you learn that there's that other Talbot County. And the form of government. Now we were a commissioner form of government, which is essentially the commissioners are, well, they're enacting the budget. They're promulgating local ordinances and so forth. The commissioner form of government, as it emerges today, and it exists in many counties in Maryland, is they are both the legislative and the executive branch of government combined. Collectively, they are the executive. There's not a single executive. In Talbot County, we got a home rule charter that took effect in November of 1974. So since that time, we've had a charter form of government, and most counties that have a charter form of government have a council that is the legislative branch and an elected executive. We don't. So even though we're a council, we're still both, the five of us, the legislative and executive branch of government. That's the system we've inherited. It changed over time. Back in the early 20th century, there were 3 commissioners. They were staggered. We're no longer staggered. We're all elected on the same cycle. We are not districted. We've never had councilmanic districts in Talbot County. We're all elected at large. I put up the map of Talbot County. Talbot County, when it's established in the 1660s, covers a much larger territory from roughly the Chester River to somewhere indistinct south of the Chop Tank and east to, so you run into those folks from Delaware, who knows? It was before, somebody once described the boundary of Delaware, between Delaware and Maryland, as so obviously the product of a divorce settlement. Line down the middle. The line didn't exist back then. So Dorchester County gets that's established in 1668. Just a few years later, Dorchester County is given the territory south of, we're established for a government for the territory south of the Choptank River. Queen Anne's County is chopped off in 1706. And finally, on the eve of the Revolution, Caroline County is carved out of the surrounding counties in 1773. So we got to our present size as Talbot County in 1773. And with that, I think, Lynn, I'll turn it over to you to talk about who's in charge.
Who's in charge? Sarah's in charge. I'd just like to say, can you hear me? Start off, make sure that you get a copy of the annual report, which Sarah prepared, because that really says it all. I mean, sort of good reference for everyone. The two things I wanted to talk about is our basic form of government, which Pete started to talk about. And number one, we have a county manager, and that's not an executive. He answers to the county council, or she, answers to us. And that county council, manager, Clay Stamp, is the one who just basically runs everything, oversees the budget, oversees a whole slew of things, but it all ultimately comes to us for comment and approval. It's an appointed job, and they serve it at our discretion. He answers to us, but he's really in charge. We also have, as part of his administrative group, a number of assistants, and the real mechanism by which we operate: an assistant manager, a secretary, an executive assistant, a grants person, and of course Sarah, who's our communications director or manager. And they basically sort of run the show, so to speak. And I would say that, my experience, these people are fabulous. They work hard, they work long hours, they're focused, and they get everything done in a really timely fashion. So we're very blessed to have these people in the county, for the county council. The departments I'll discuss later, because as you can see, there's so many of them. But again, these departments are subject to appointment as well. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the departments that are a little bit different from the others are Hogneck and Eastern Airport. And they're known as enterprise organizations, because we do profit from the operation of the airport. We do supply and sell fuel, and of course Hogneck has been operating a great golf course, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The other departments as you could see, who the directors are, planning and zoning, roads and facilities, and all these people are just fabulous. They really are. They're very focused, they're quick to respond, and have a lot of good ideas for us to consider. So, we're the ones who make the ultimate decision, but without this fabulous staff, we couldn't run the county the way we do. So I turn it back to you now?
You want me to go? You want me to take the first department here?
Oh, okay.
Corrections.
Okay, corrections. That's the jail, which is right down the street. And it's a really good operation. What's the next one?
Generally speaking, if you get convicted here locally, if you live here locally, because your family might want to visit you, you get put in here locally. The state will handle you if you get a long sentence, 18 months, 2 years or longer. The serious folks get into the state system. If you've got a relatively light sentence, you got a domestic or something like that, you end up in our local detention center. And they do drug rehab, they do job training, they do attempts at counseling for reentry to get people back on their feet, because what we want is keep the recidiv. We don't want to see you again, right? We want you to be a good contributing member of society once you've paid your debt. And we are not full. We have we take some people who are not from Talbot County through the U.S. Marshal Service. They pay us to house some, but most of the folks there are folks from Talbot County who've been convicted in Talbot County, who have family in Talbot County or connections of some sort here. That is part of the community and who will get reintegrated back into the community.
Yeah.
And other counties around us are getting to the point where they're not sure that they can afford to still do this and are figuring out what's next. We've got a pretty good, stable system here.
Economic development. This is a real advantage to Talbot County because we have a very aggressive and successful department head, Cassandra, right? And there she is right here. And we just get so much cooperation, and we get so much funding in tourism. Tourism is the biggest moneymaker, one of the biggest moneymakers in the county. And the current project that's in process is having a welcome center. And we're studying that, and they're working very hard on that. And one of the proposals was to have it near where the hospital is and where the sports center, I call it sports center, where that is. So that's coming
center.
along the line. So there's so much that we do and that she does. And so next. And emergency services. Now, we have such a good emergency service group. And it's not only in Tillman, it's here too. They answer to us, but they are really responsive and just wonderful staff that responds to any emergencies. And
Lynn, remind us, when did we start doing professional? Once upon a time, all the ambulance service here was out of the volunteer companies, but was it in the 80s that we or 90s?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
At some point, they cried uncle, and we said, we need round-the-clock professional coverage, advanced life support, and the county that became a county function at that point. So that's one of the functions of emergency services, along with running the 911 center and emergency planning. So let's say there's a big snowstorm. They cover the planning and the communications for that. Number of these units, we station these. There's 6 of them around the county. Mostly they're stationed in firehouses. So you'll find one at Tillman, at St. Michael's, at Trapp, at Easton, at the Easton Airport. There's not one at Cordova. We're building one at Cordova. So one of the ones from Easton will move out to Cordova, right across from the Chapel District School. That is still under construction.
Cordova
Oxford is one of the only fire companies that does not have an ALS unit stationed there, and their ambulance unit is often the first on the scene for emergencies that happen down there. That corner of the county is still covered by volunteers.
Next. Oh, Parks and Rec. What a great programs we have. I think we're the only ice rink on the Eastern Shore that has hockey.
Since one closed in Delaware, yes, over in Harrington.
Yeah, and it's very popular, and we've been supporting that for a long time. And just a lot of good things go on there. And we have a great manager, and it's open. People should know that it's also open for activities or for rental of some space there. If you have a some kind of party you want to give or something like that, it will always be appreciated. And it's really dealing with a lot of change because of the hospital and all the road, but it hasn't really curtailed any of the effective business and operations, to the credit of staff. Great staff.
There's been some movement to say from the hockey parents who are saying we need a second sheet of ice. We've already gone to year-round ice now, but there's lots of demand for this. Can we have a second sheet of ice? And my response was, nobody's using it between midnight and 6 a.m. We haven't maxed out the use of it yet.
That's where my
Mothers must love you.
Of course, they cover parks and landings as well.
Next. County Department, permits and inspections, and planning and zoning. Probably one of the most important committees that we have is planning and zoning, because they but they regulate the development of this county, keeping in mind its basically rural aspect, but they're very thorough. They have hearings, they advertise everything, so you can always be heard when they come up with various plans that they have. The permits and inspections, again, it's a very well-run organization, and there's also a hotline that if you have applied for a permit and you haven't heard whether it was passed or what the status of it is, you can go to this hotline and get that information, so you don't have to, wait to call up somebody and wait for a return call. Not that they would take that much time, because they're very good, but the planning and zoning really keeps Talbot County and preserves its historic nature, but still helps in the development of this county so that we can maintain our good standard of living, both economically and quality of life.
Any guesses? Any of you talked to maybe a builder, contractor locally? What is the biggest complaint? What is the most frequent complaint that we get in local government? Permits. Where is my permit? When am I going to get my permit? It's taking too long to get my permit. They turned me down, and I don't think they should have turned me down for this, that, or the other. Permits are a perennial source of complaint. And to respond to that, on the left side, you can now go into the system and track your permit. So we now have a program for that, so you know what the progress is. The backlog is getting shorter. We're doing better here. We're not where we want to be, but this is in fact, we hear about this from a number of our constituents, and we're trying to do something about it.
Public Works. It's another great program that's responsible for all the maintenance of our roads and infrastructure. We have a great manager of Public Works, and if you noticed how during the snowstorm, how that was taken care of, and our latest big project was out by where they're building the hospital, and worked on Glebe Road, and that, you know, did it in a thorough, quick, way, and safe way. It's just a really well-run department. Is there anything you want to add?
One of my fellow scout leaders who works for the Maryland Park Service asked me on one trip, when you got into public service, did you ever think you would spend so much time thinking about poop? And working in the Park Service, he didn't think so either. But guess what? This is indeed one of the things that takes up an inordinate amount of time. For the most part, we think about sewer service. Out in the country, we have septics, one per property. But in the municipalities, we have centralized sewer systems. Easton's had one since the very early 20th century. One of the, I think, 1920 or something like that. Easton's had a public sewer for a long time. Oxford, St. Michael's, Trapp, 1960s. Much more recent. And when St. Michael's wanted, when St. Michael's was forced by EPA to upgrade their standards of treatment in the 70s, I think, they cried uncle. We're not going to do this. We're not going to spend that kind of money. And that's when the county became the operator of the St. Michael's wastewater treatment plant, which has allowed, because the county operates it, it's not, you don't have to get annexed to the town. If you want sewer service up in Easton, you need to be annexed to the town. In Oxford, you need to be annexed to the town. And no thank you, they're not annexing anymore. In St. Michael's, it's a county system. And so we've run the pipes all the way to Unionville and Tunis Mills in one direction. We have run them out to Martingham and connected that system. We are in the process of running them out Church Neck and Bosman Nevitt to take, in these environmentally sensitive areas, to take houses off of septics, get a higher standard of treatment. The St. Michael's treatment is a very high standard. The ENR, very clean discharge in terms of nitrogen and phosphorus discharge. And we've got plenty of capacity, 2 million gallons per day at St. Michael's, which we're using less than half of. So we continue to take houses off of septic and connect it to the St. Michael's system. We also own a system in Tillman, not such a good standard of treatment. That will be next. We recently took over one up in Y Mills, a tiny one that was developed for single development, and the HOA, same story as St. Michael's. They cried uncle. The system failed, and the county has moved in. So we now have 3 systems. There's discussion, maybe there may be one someday down by the bridge to Cambridge, the Route 50 bridge to Cambridge. Not a certainty. So the engineering department oversees that, and they also do planning for road upgrades. We've dropped in roads department, which is a separate department here. The way we measure our roads is per lane miles. So if you have a 1 mile road, that's 1 lane in this direction, 1 lane in that direction, that's 2 lane miles. If you're going down Route 50 in the middle of Easton, there's 3 lanes going one direction, 3 lanes going up. So a 1 mile section of that would be 6 lane miles. Talbot County has approximately 700 lane miles of roads that we maintain. Every now and then we manage to give small sections to Easton or another one of the municipalities when they annex a little bit, but we're not going to shed much of that. It's a huge responsibility.
Okay, the Talbot Family Network, as you can see, has a variety of responsibilities. A relatively new department that has been created, but it handles so much. The after-school programs, families, care of seniors. In fact, one of the latest projects is that there's a task force that has been formed that is being worked with the Family Network to deal with what you might be surprised to hear is a homeless problem among seniors. And we're dealing with that through that task force, but I think ultimately whatever will come under the Family Network. And so we're fortunate to have such a good department that is so diverse and is addressing all these issues to keep our place healthy and safe. Airport. I'm on the airport board. As you may have noticed, there have been a lot of renovations that have been going on. They tore down Black & Decker. They moved the runway. Part of the reason for moving the runway was when it was originally constructed, it didn't comply, or maybe the compliance wasn't required to be a certain distance from Route 50. So it had to be moved down to, where towards Black & Decker. And it's a long process. I think we've got a couple more years to go. But under our current department head, it really has become a hub for out-of-state use. That is, many jets and other aircraft use it for buying reasonably priced fuel for their vehicles, and so it's been a really good thing. Right now, it used to have a restaurant there, and that's under reconstruction and renovation. So right now, we just have vending machines, sort of back to the old days of, automats. But it'll be coming in the next few years because that always used to be a great place. I know so many people would go out there, have little meetings and enjoy it. So, but it's being updated, and that was the reason why. So a lot of things are happening. It's a good deal. I think that they're going to tear down all these trees that are behind Dick's Sporting Goods, and that's because of the new approach. Because we do the airport also earns money and services our federal flight programs and military programs. So it's quite a hub, and it's being well run by a great group of employees. Good plug.
How many small general aviation airports do you think pay their own way?
Yeah, that's a good point.
This one does. This one has done it for years, and they do it, as Lynn says, through fuel sales. So all their operating funds. Now, the airport expansion, that's mostly federal money. That's FAA. You're paying for that every time you pay your plane ticket, the taxes on your plane tickets. That's covering 90% of the airport expansion. Maryland covers another 5%. The airport chips in the remaining 5%. Guess how much they have to come to the rest of county government to cover? It's all paid for by the airport's own operations. So this is, in many places, the airport is subsidized by local government because it's an economic driver. And you might say, but I never use the airport. I drive over to Bewee. Well, the folks who use it do spend a lot of money locally. The mechanics, the hangar rentals, the so forth. It is a pretty serious economic driver for the county. At one point, management of the airport was shared between the town of Easton and the county. And at some point, they decided to sort things out, and they gave a lot of land that the airport didn't need to the town, and they gave the airport operations to the county. So a lot of the industrial land that's on the outskirts of the airport, some of that was managed by Easton or is being sold by Easton, Mistletoe Hall Farm, where they're developing now. But the county, the county was given as part of that deal, airport operations.
Next. Hogneck Golf Course. How many of you play Hogneck? It's a great golf course. It goes back to 1978 when it was opened. It's 255 acres, and they were donated by Nellie Jones, and she also financed the construction of Hogneck. For a long time, it was the #1 golf course in the area. I think that was until the 60s and 70s. It is 27 holes, as you may know, 12 for the 18 for regular course, and then there's an executive course. Recently, there's been a lot of renovations that are going on. The driving range, cart paths are being redone, and a number of other things. One of the projects that's just beginning is what we call Top Golf, and it's sort of a gathering spot for playing virtual golf. And there are videos of like Pebble Beach that you can play, and it's a great place because I saw the one over on the Western Shore, and it's a great place for families. It's not much that families with children have in terms of activities for evenings, but this will be that. And the kids love it, and then they'll be learning golf at a young age to support it. But it'll be a really fun and great project. And it's a little bit slow, and we also have a new cafe there, which is very popular and very good. And there's a pavilion that is used for some rentals, and that's going to be getting some renovations over the years too, so that it could be more of a catering and resource center for rentals and events, more so than it is now. So they want to expand that use. So a lot of good things going on at Hogneck, and if you're golfers, make sure you support them. Or become a golfer and support them.
Why would a small government like Talbot County have something like a public golf course? You might wonder.
Economic driver again.
It's an economic driver, certainly, but it's not something. Is this something you would expect a small government to invest in, to acquire? This was, as Lynn said, this was a product of philanthropy. Mm-hmm. This was Nettie Jones, the widow of W. Alton Jones. They bought a farm. They lived at Cedar Point, just down the Oxford Road. And W. Alton Jones was killed in a plane crash fairly young in 1962. And for the next 12 years, until she moved to Charlottesville, Nettie Jones gave the land and the money to develop Hogneck Golf Course. She gave the land and the money to build the ice rink. Her money built St. Mark's Village. Her money built the YMCA. Her money built an addition to the Memorial Hospital at Easton. Huge impact on this county. So we're very fortunate to have had Nettie Jones here for just a dozen years, made a huge impact on this place. You want me to take this one?
Yes.
Covering there are a number of these functions that are sort of internal. We have to have our own personnel office. We have to have our own finance office. Actually, finance office is public facing. That is if you go in and pay your taxes in person. But it's all the internal finance functions that any entity needs to that has bills to pay and revenue to collect needs to handle. Perhaps most importantly is and facilities. County owns buildings and properties all across. We have to have our own facilities crew to keep up after that, and especially information technology services for the information technology. Our firewalls. You hear reports about the Maryland Department of Health, or a county, or a school district getting a ransomware attack. We've been fortunate so far. We've also been protecting ourselves. Attacks come every day, multiple attacks, and we've been able to, we've got a good crew in place that is defending that. So there's an awful lot of county government that is just handling that kind of back of the house stuff that nevertheless we need to make sure is handled competently and is adequately resourced. Now, it's not just staff, right? It's not just staff that runs the county. We've got a plethora of boards and commissions. And I think I even missed a few on this list. The Frederick Douglass on the Tuckahoe Park Committee is one that I missed. Some of these boards are done in a partnership, and the board comes to us and said, would you please appoint this person? We've vetted this person for the tourism board or for any of these others. In other cases, it is up to us on the council to solicit people to step up to this and to do our own vetting, and ultimately, regardless of who does the vetting, it is still up to the county council to make these appointments. There are some of these that I've highlighted in yellow. We have vacancies. If any of these things might say, oh man, that's a place where I could lend a hand. That's something that that tickles my fancy. That's something where I can bring some expertise to bear. Talk to us later. Many of these are attached to one or another department, and therefore get staff support to do them. There are some of these where we coordinate with another agency. The Social Services Board of Directors, the Talbot County Board of Social Service, the Talbot County Department of Social Services is not a function of county government. It is a function of state government. Now we fund a little bit, a tiny slice of their pie, but nevertheless we appoint their board of directors, and that works with a couple of close to the top. Who does animal control in Talbot County?
Talbot Humane.
Talbot Humane. We know, we've got people who know about this. And does Talbot Humane, how are they organized? They're a private nonprofit, right? But there is a county appointed animal control board. So they're kind of half county and half private nonprofit. There are some of these that are interesting hybrids like that of nonprofit partnership that allow county government to say, we don't have to do this function internally. We can find a partner in the nonprofit world and sort of extend our reach, extend our impact without without having to pay for this all through taxpayer-raised funds. Because, yes, we provide funding for animal control, but Talbot Humane does so much more than that. And so therefore they're raising their own funds to do all those other pieces that they mesh with the animal control board part. Part is a government function, part is a charitable nonprofit function. That one might be almost unique on this list. I found another one that was kind of unique that didn't really fit with this list, and that's Upper Shore Aging. Anybody know what they do? They do a lot, but they're almost invisible. If I said Brooklet's Place, Talbot County Senior Center, St. Michael's Senior Center, now you know what I'm talking about. That's only one of their functions. Meals on Wheels, they do that. What about a navigator? What about getting services so that checking in on somebody to make sure that that they're navigating as a senior that can still live in home if they get a little bit of assistance? That's Upper Shore Aging. My mother is not getting treated well by the nursing home. I need somebody who's going to go to bat for me. Upper Shore Aging. They've got an ombudsman for that. And they are serving not one, but 3 counties. Upper Shore Aging is Talbot County and Caroline County and Kent County. So the 3 counties together, we basically pool our resources to take care of the overhead rather than each of us having a Department of Aging. And then Talbot County appoints 1/3 of the board members. Caroline County appoints 1/3 of the board members. So this is kind of an interesting hybrid. We often have need. I probably should have highlighted this one in yellow too. I think we have a board opening on Upper Shore Aging. If this is something that tickles your fancy, if there's some aspect of that, talk to one of us afterwards. Do I have this one? All right. Talk about our partnerships with all these nonprofits. They're not all nonprofits. Some of them are other independent agencies of government. Talbot County Public Schools. I put Superintendent Sharon Pepakai's picture up here. Who does she report to? Who hires her? The school board, which is independently elected. They don't answer to us. They're their own entity. How do they raise funds? They don't have any taxing authority. It's a funny hybrid in this state. They have to come to the county council, and we'll get to that in the budgeting section. The county government, where Lynn and I serve, has the taxing authority. And so therefore, we are the ones that need to make the appropriations for the schools. The same is true for the sheriff's office, Joe Gamble. Who does Joe Gamble report to? The voters. He is independently elected, but he doesn't have taxing authority, and therefore he needs to come to the county council for the annual appropriations. The health department. Who appoints him? I think it's basically the governor, the Maryland Department of Health. He actually runs this, like the Department of Social Services. It may be the Talbot County Health Department, but his are mostly Maryland employees. There are a few that are county employees. We provide some funding. The state doesn't provide everything that they need, and the county provides funding for a few employees over there. So that's another one of these kind of funny hybrid situations. I put our newest judge up there, Bill Cronin. He is our Talbot County Circuit Court judge. Is he a county employee? No, he's state. He's state. Well, and ultimately, he's appointed by the governor and stands election for his retention, right? But he too comes to us for appropriations for some of his employees and things like that. So yet another one of those hybrid situations, because it is the county that has the taxing authority. I listed a number of others down here. I already talked about Upper Shore Aging. Neighborhood Service Center is our community action agency. That's our main poverty fighting organization. They do feeding. They fight hunger. They fight homelessness. They help people out with utility bills that keep them in their houses and things like that. They run one of the county's food pantries, one of the busiest of the food pantries at right here, based out of Easton. Are they a county agency? No. They're an independent nonprofit. Funding from the state, some funding from the county, some funding from the town of Easton, some charitable support. Talbot County Free Library. This entity, how is Talbot County Free Library funded? 50% from Talbot County, and the other half from the state library fund. Dana?
It's 80% from the county.
80% from the county? I should give us more credit.
5% from the state and 15% from raising money.
There you go. I was confusing the capital funds, where the state's a little bit more generous. Yeah. Okay. I already mentioned Talbot Humane, Patty Quimby that leads them, and Department of Social Services, again, state agency that we partner with and provide some supplemental funds. Talbot Social Services, we have an extraordinary social services department in this county. Anyone know where to find them? You know that crosswalk on Bay Street, and there's a little bridge across below the Bay Street ponds, and then up the hill there's a building there. Department of Social Services. So they're handling adoption and foster care. They're handling
Elder abuse?
They handle elder abuse. They WIC, women, infants, and children. Some of those social services sorts of programs that distribute federal and state funding. Your turn.
Okay. Open meeting. Democracy at work. Our council and our government is subject to the Maryland Open Meetings Act law, which is Title III of the General Provisions Article, Sections 3-101 to 3-501, in case anybody wants to know the complete scope and broadness of this covenant, of this law. It provides, in general, public access to meetings, to information, and or records. There are some exceptions. There's some closed session that we're permitted to have, and they usually involve either personnel matters or what else do they say? Legal counsel. But it does require a statement as to what was discussed or considered or decided. It provides for transparency, that you can get copies of almost anything that's filed that doesn't involve the attorney or the county, but almost anything. Also, you can get the copies of the minutes. You can get copies of almost everything. We are required to comply with the open meetings laws, and there's a board that if you feel that the council at any time or any employee has not complied with the Open Meetings Act, you can file a complaint with them, and they would investigate and decide, whether you're right or wrong, and certainly instruct us. But to my knowledge, that hasn't occurred. We're pretty Has it?
Not for this council, but the previous council.
Oh, okay.
To give you an example, so the public is entitled to watch what we do and to hear what we do. They are entitled to witness our decision making. They are entitled to watch us make a vote, even the vote to go into closed session. We're allowed to go into closed session for certain matters, certain personnel matters, real estate negotiations. When we actually purchase or sell real estate, that is happening in open meeting. That has to happen in front of the public. But the negotiations before then that lead up to that, that's allowed to happen behind closed doors, because what would happen to the price of a property if it got out that the county was negotiating for it? So there are certain things. We're allowed to consult with our attorney. We're negotiating a settlement with this lawsuit. We're not going to do that in open session. We may not do that in open session. So there's certain things that have to happen behind closed doors, but you are even entitled to watch us vote to go into closed session. That happens. That has to happen in public. And, it must have been about 6 years ago. It was about this time of year, and the state legislature has all these bills coming in, and some of them might impact Talbot County. And one of our council members circulates an email saying, we need to take a position on this. It might have been emails, it might have been texts, it might have been a combination of the two. We got enough council members who responded to that. When there's 5 council members, you need to learn to count to 3. Once you can count to 3, you've made a decision. You've given direction to staff. So at least 3 council members piped in and said, do this, we're going to take this position. And we sent the letter off to Annapolis, the testimony off to the committee in Annapolis. And somebody said, whoa, you can't do that. And they reported us to the Open Meetings Compliance Board. And the Open Meetings Compliance Board said, you can't do that. And so now, every Thursday at 4:30, we have an open Zoom session. It's not an in-person meeting, but even if it's a Zoom session, it's still a public meeting. It must be advertised beforehand, and it must be open to the public. You're not entitled to come in and speak necessarily at these things, but you are entitled to be able to hear what we're doing. And so every Thursday at 4:30, we are meeting with our lobbyist in Annapolis and deciding on, are we going to take a position on this bill? Are we going to take a position on that bill? We now have a system where you can watch our decision making and witness what we're doing.
Budget.
No. Lynn decided to sit down for this one. These slides are all from last year's budgeting process. I stole them from our finance director, Martha. Our fiscal year is the same as the state's fiscal year. It starts on July 1st. So we this time of year, we've gone to all the agencies. We've gone to the library. We've gone to Upper Shore Aging. We've gone to all the county departments and said, tell us what you need for next year. And on Tuesday, March 4th, whatever that, the date that we were going to have the second session, we are having the 3rd. We are going to have our first, our budget presentation. We're going to get the first dump of all that information from all the departments and agencies that we fund. And we'll be outlining sort of what our approach will be for, or setting the tone at least for a whole series of intense meetings through March, spilling a little bit into April, ultimately for action in May. We hope that we can make a decision on a budget for May so that everything can be set in place for your tax bills to go out in June, before the start of our next fiscal year. Unlike another legislative body that I won't bring up right now, we must have our budget set before the fiscal year starts. And so this path from taking us from beginning of March through the budget becoming effective and finally taking effect on July 1st. So stay posted. That's going to absorb a lot of, yes.
What happens if you don't meet your deadline? Or you just do?
What happens if we don't meet that deadline? In fact, we never have, so I don't think we've tested that. The Pennsylvania legislature, though they have a constitutional obligation, failed last year, and it was a royal mess in Pennsylvania for a few months. But we have fulfilled our charter mandated responsibilities, and we've gotten this done. Our sources of revenue for county governments in this state, the biggest piece is our property tax. Talbot County is one of the jurisdictions that has a property tax revenue cap. It is the strictest such property tax cap in the state. It was done on a voter initiative, a ballot initiative, and so it is wired into our charter. And we've managed to change that a few times, amended a few times, and all of those amendments are part of our county charter. So the original tax cap said that we can spend our revenues, our property tax revenues may go up by the lesser of 2% or the Consumer Price Index Urban, CPIU. And by voter initiative a few years ago, by ballot initiative, we got rid of the CPI. It is now simply a flat 2%. What happens if inflation is, I don't know, 3%? Too bad. That's it. That's wired in. Except that, again, another ballot initiative said we'll allow 1 penny on the tax rate, and that's now been extended in the most recent ballot initiative for until 2033, I think. So we could do 2% plus a penny. There's our cap. Got to work within it. Except, oh, there's an exception. The state, you might know, has mandated that we spend a certain amount on education, and that increases every year. It's called the Blueprint for Excellence in Education. And every year they tell us what our minimum, our floor is. You will fund education for at least this amount. You can fund for more, but at least this amount. And some jurisdiction, when this first started, came out and said, but we've hit our property tax cap. We can't fund it. And the Maryland court said, yes, you can, so long as every extra penny that you get goes only to education. So the property tax cap actually doesn't mean what it once did, because why did it get instituted? Education costs. We'll get to that in the next slide. And yet the property tax cap otherwise remains in place, which will impact then public safety, meaning sheriff's office, 911, and ambulances, and roads, and all those other things we do, but not education. The second biggest support that we have is the income tax. Maryland has this really funny system where you figure out your state income tax, and then you say, I live in this county, and they give you a formula. And in Talbot County, it's 0.240. Is that right? 0.0240, 0.0240. 2.4% of your income gets added on top of your state tax, and that becomes your county income tax. And the state collects it, and they pass it back to the county. And income tax, you know, you don't pay on the state's fiscal year, you pay on the calendar year, or most of you do anyway. And so it's on a different cycle. So it's funny the way all this comes in, but we budget for that. And Talbot County's kind of funny in that we have, you might be aware of this, we have a small number of very high net worth individuals. And if one of them moves his or her permanent residence to Florida or Texas or somewhere, we notice. And that happened around the time of the last recession, 2008, 2009, when we took a hit in income taxes, and the county had a really rough time budgeting. That was before I was on the county council. But property tax is the biggest thing. Income taxes are the next. Our next sources are things like state grants. State funds us for police aid and shared highway user revenues, a piece of your gas tax and so forth. And then we get down to little things like your permit fees and your ramp fees if you choose, or other user sorts of fees. There's the pie chart I promised. Schools are the biggest part of the budget. It used to be an even bigger part of the pie than it is today. Today it's showing as about just under 43%. It used to be almost 50%. And I don't quite understand why that pie has changed, because we have had to break the property tax cap in order to fund the school's obligation. So I would have thought that would be growing, but it's not, it's shrinking. So that's a question for our finance director, not for me. There's the more detailed picture of our expenditures. And as you can see now, this one, what did I do? I hit this button. I hit the black button. There we go. Here you see education is only 40%, and that's because there is a up there on the maroon in the top left, capital projects. The last pie chart didn't have capital in it, so that changes the pie a little bit. But you can see after education, what's the next biggest one? Public safety. So that's the sheriff's office, that's the 911 center, that's the advanced life support ambulance service, all lumped together. Dana.
The college is in the education portion as well?
Chesapeake College is in the education portion. Yes. Yes, I'm pretty sure of that. Our contribution to that. So yeah, we're in a 5-county consortium to fund Chesapeake College, and that's an interesting arrangement. If Chesapeake College, it's based on our share for the Chesapeake Colleges. What percentage of Chesapeake College's students are from Talbot? That's the percentage of Chesapeake College's budget that we pay. And we get a similar proportion if they've got a capital project. They want to build a new technology teaching building, and we pay for that similar slice. How do we all agree to this? The 5 counties actually get together every year up at Chesapeake College, and we have to have a majority of each of the 5 councils present, and we jointly make a decision. And the technology building, it didn't move forward one year because one of the counties, Dorchester, howled and said, we can't afford this now, we need to put this off. And 2 other counties said, we're not going to make you shoulder that burden in a year when you can't. Now it's on. If 3 counties, it's just like the county council. If 3 of us vote for something, that's a majority vote. If 3 counties participating in Chesapeake College, the majority of 3 county councils agree to this, the project moves forward. All right. We're going to skip this one. We're going to save this one for next week, talking about our comprehensive plan and our strategic plan. The strategic plan, I will say this much. The strategic plan is how do you take all these functions that we've been through and find a common thread? We need to provide better customer service to Talbot County constituents. How do we find that common thread? That's what the strategic plan is about, to find common threads for our initiatives across departments. And the best expression of the results of that annual strategic plan, and it is an annual strategic plan, is in this first ever annual report, which we are very proud of. If you got a copy of this, great. I'm a member of the council. I'm voting on these things all the time. I'm in the midst of this, and yet I found this really informative. Oh yeah, that's how this all fits together. We have 25 physical copies here. This is online. There have been links to that. You can find it on the website, or you might have found a link to it in the announcement in the Talbot Spy or elsewhere. A great reference for how we are thinking strategically, what binds all of this together in terms of forward motion, planning, and fulfillment of what we're doing for the county. And so let me tease up what we're talking about next week. I think that we're going to talk about your participation in government, whether that is you write in, you show up at a council meeting and speak. What are your opportunities, and how can you be effective? How can you be most effective doing that? From somebody who's at the receiving end, from our perspective. I'm going to add in a little piece about how a bill becomes an ordinance. Give you a little bit of our process for what we go through, which is not unlike what any other government body, the State House, the Congress goes through, except that we don't have a separately elected executive who can veto what we do. You can veto what we do. It's true, and it has happened. We're going to talk about the Public Information Act. We talked about the Open Meetings Act tonight. Your right to watch what we're doing. You are also entitled to obtain information, communications. What are they saying to each other? If it is not determined to be privileged, we're going to talk about how you can do that through the Public Information Act. And we're going to talk about one of the big things that's happening this year, which is our county comprehensive plan, what that includes, and yet another opportunity for your public participation. And Lynn, I think with that, we can pause for questions. Oh, Doug said at the beginning that we would have an email address to which you can address questions. So we are going to try to cover those topics next week, 2 weeks from now, 13 days from now. We're going to cover those topics that I just outlined, but also you can play a role in what we deliver at the second session of this. What is it that you want to know? What is it that we're not answering? What questions have we been dodging? Send them in to talbotbizquestion@gmail.com, and you will help shape the second session for what we're doing. I think, Doug, I'll turn it over to you, and we can take a question or two.
Sure. I'll tell you what, with the Chesapeake Forum, if you've registered for the class, we'll email you out that and also the link so that you can look at the annual report. So, and I will get that out to you tomorrow. So, questions for this evening?
Thank you so much, presenters. This is amazing. Judy and I have just gotten done with some travel. We were just in Mexico, and we also spent some time in Florida, and just happened to miss the ice storm. Very sad that we happened to miss that. But one thing that we noticed in those areas is the enablement for pedestrians and bicyclists. In the urban settings. And even in Mexico on the highways, they have areas for motorcyclists and scooters and bicyclists and pedestrians to safely do it. And I think in Talbot County and in Easton, it's just really woefully inadequate. And I'm wondering, maybe for next time, if you can possibly speak, I don't know if Talbot Thrive is strategically part of your new 10-year plan, but we can do so much better. And one of the things that we found, especially in Florida, is you build it and they will come. We were amazed at how many people were out of all ages using their bicycles on these byways that they have invested in building. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So that one of those committees that I listed, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee, is it's only been there for about a year so far, and their first task was to create a bicycle and pedestrian master safety plan, which would pave the way for any improvements, to say, these are our priorities. Here's what would be most important to do first. And we went and we pursued federal funding for it. And we got it. We were one of only 2 counties. We were one of only 4 entities in the entire state of Maryland that got funded. And we got it. So
You're on that task.
I am on that task force. I'm the council liaison to that task force. So we don't have a plan yet, but we're making one. And we have folks from all the jurisdictions, Easton and St. Michael's and Oxford, and all the jurisdictions, as well as the rural parts of the county, on that committee. So there's at least some intent to coordinate what's going on in the rural parts of the county, where we do have jurisdiction, with what's going on, say, in Easton. Easton, as you know, has recently added a second rail trail. St. Michael's has a rail trail. Oxford is just starting a little link between their town and the county's Oxford Conservation Park. Could we have links among these systems eventually? That's the kind of question that the master plan will answer, but it hasn't yet. We have, I think, the next, at least this calendar year, to be putting that bicycle and pedestrian master safety plan together, which is not something I otherwise plan to present in this. One of the many pieces that we're moving forward.
Forgive me for not standing up. I got bad knees, and I'm from Oxford. Oxford Volunteer Fire Company is rapidly aging out. I'm reasonably certain that other volunteer fire companies are experiencing the same aging out process. What is Talbot County doing to maintain its emergency services in light of this phenomenon that we're experiencing?
Very good question, and an important observation. You know, how long can we cried uncle and we gave up on all volunteer ambulance service. How long can we continue with an all volunteer fire service? Where are the nearest paid fire services?
Bridge.
Annapolis and Salisbury. How far are they? 1 hour each way. So right now we are entirely reliant on 7 volunteer fire companies in this county. So we know a paid fire service is going to be really expensive. And so the longer we can keep this going, the longer we can recruit volunteers, the longer we can keep them equipped and trained and so forth, the better off we all are. And frankly, their response times are pretty amazing. They are helping to keep, even though they're all volunteer services, they're helping to keep our insurance rates, because insurance rates are based on the performance of your fire company, on their response time and their response capabilities. So there's real economic value to this. So what are we doing? We have We have a LoSAP program, which is basically a retirement program that you get a pension if you put in so many years and so many hours as a volunteer firefighter, and at age 62 something, you can start collecting from the LoSAP program. So there's finance. But what about, we need young guys, right? How do we recruit young guys? We're now, we've got an incentive in there to help you with the down payment of a home. We are funding retirement. We are funding training. We are funding equipment. We are trying to do everything we can because we know that the more we spend supporting volunteers, the longer that we can stave off that day when we need to put a paid service in the county. And I am not expecting Oxford to step up to pay for that. You know, that's inevitably going to be the county. Maybe we can lean on Easton, but the bill's likely going to come to us. So,
Excuse me, but it sounds like you've split fire and medical into two separate groups. So it's not just emergency services lumped together. It's now the medical side and the fire side.
so what he's saying, if you couldn't hear, we've now split fire and medical, or fire and ambulance, and that is partially true. There are still volunteer ambulance services at most, I think, all of these fire companies, and they're for the most part have stepped into a backup role for the advanced life support professionals, for the EMTs and the paramedics. But they're existing side by side.
Thank you.
One more question?
Yes. Talbot County has a very large senior population. What are your plans to recruit younger people to move here?
In the last 2 minutes, yes, Talbot County is still the grayest or second grayest. Kent County may have surpassed us in terms of the oldest median age of residents. And yes, we are a great place to retire, and so people do move here to retire because of the great quality of life and all the services and so forth. It is, but what are we doing for folks who are not retired? And there are a number of factors. What are the barriers? Housing costs. So this comes down to what are we doing about housing costs? And if we had found the magic answer to that so far, and of course it's not just housing, because if you go out and build $900,000 apartment units on the site of the former Safeway, is that really supporting that interest? Probably not. So it's how do you incentivize housing for a particular segment? How do you incentivize? And that is a question that I think that we're looking at in the comprehensive plan process. Stay tuned, because there are some discussions going on about what can Talbot County and Easton do to collaborate to provide those opportunities. But really, ultimately it's about how can we make this affordable for you who grew up in this place to stay here. I think we've got the employment side pretty well. Easton has about as many jobs as it has working age residents. That doesn't mean that everybody who lives here works here, but we've got an equal number of people commuting in and out. We still need to do more in terms of providing jobs, but that's less the problem than the housing and cost of living issues. And that's what we're, I think, trying to tackle next. It is not just in Talbot County, not just in Maryland, but across America. It is the issue of our time. We're all working on it, not just in Talbot County government. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Lynn and Pete. Please join me in All right, so we will see you back Monday, March 2nd. Thank you so much. And if you have questions or topics you want covered, please email.
You're not a Baywatch babe.
A lot of wisdom.
Are you on Thursday? Oh, no, nobody's yard looks good now.
The people that are great.
You have a nice looking yard now, I mean, really.
Because they told us what they can.
You know what the town does.
What I should do.
Virginia, Pennsylvania, Commonwealth.
High school.
Absolutely.
As you understand.